What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all well. Now, before we get into today's video, make sure you're subscribed to my channel with notifications on so you never miss any of my future uploads. Entitled Mum demands that a sick person is moved out of a hospital unit. Alright, first let me say that this isn't my story. I'm a medical student and one of my professors and I are doing a research together, so we have a very close relationship. I actually have a master's and this professor was actually my advisor during it. She just sent me this story through text and I can't believe some people's cruelty. For context, we're in the middle of a very complicated time for health workers, especially MDs and nurses. My professor is an MD and currently is on the front line of the infection. In my country, we had a few hospital units selected to only treat cases of respiratory problems, and she's one of the MDs on one of those particular units. This happened last night. While this unit's purpose is to diagnose and test cases of COVID-19, most of the cases appearing were usually common colds, flus, or allergies. We expected that, since people always rush to those places when they get cold-like symptoms these days, and as you realize, the place was packed. However, a patient who had come in some time before and had symptoms that matched COVID was waiting for the result of his exam. He was seated in a separate room and had a mask on, as precautions by WHO dictates. Let's make it clear that he wasn't in the same room as everyone else. After some time, the exam was ready and it came back positive. However, the team is prepared for that. His symptoms weren't acute, so he wouldn't need to be incubated, but he needed to be admitted as he did have major shortness of breath. Also, since there was a patient who had tested positive, by law of the state we are in, we have to warn every member of the waiting room, regardless if the patient was there or not. Thus began the horror. While some people were apprehensive, they understood that they had not had contact with this patient. However, one woman didn't. This middle-aged woman got on her feet, pulled a kid by the arm, her child, and went to the counter, letting fumes out of her nostrils. She started to have an argument with the nurses, saying that it was irresponsible to leave that person there, that this person was gonna make them all get sick and die, that her child couldn't get sick because she had a weak immune system, and she demanded that the COVID patient was kicked out of that unit. Now, I'm not aware of every bit she said, but it was around those lines. However, please remember that this unit was converted especially to treat COVID patients. The media says all the time that if you're sick but you don't think it's COVID, you should go to the regular units. Otherwise, you should call a COVID line and they will tell you where to go. This woman clearly wasn't there because of infection and was demanding a sick patient who needed supplementary oxygen to be kicked out of the hospital for the sake of her child. Oh well, that just made me lose a bit of faith in humanity. My professor was the one who called the authorities and had the woman removed. Well done to your professor. Oh man, why are people suddenly becoming so selfish just because something bad is happening to everybody? Surely that should mean that everyone should become more selfless and just help out. I don't know why, but there's something about a massive crisis that really uncovers who the true Karens and entitled people of this world are. In many ways, it's kind of a good thing, right? We can finally work out who are actually good people and who are horrible. I'd actually be quite interested to know, guys, are there any people that you know that you thought were good people, but now you've seen how they've kind of acted and reacted to this virus and you're like, maybe they're not as good as I thought? Let me know. Now for our second story, woman demands coronavirus tests for her and her kid and starts threatening to infect hospital patients. This isn't my story, but I heard it from a friend of mine who is a GP, but now also works at a hospital to aid the nurses during the coronavirus outbreak. And I thought this story fits in here like a glove. Yeah, sounds like it will. Little backstory. Because there is a shortage of coronavirus tests where I live, only people who show very strong symptoms or who are in high-risk groups are allowed to get tested. So this woman and her child, who was around 10 years old, enter the hospital, which is already really crowded and chaotic since the crisis. And she loudly demands to the receptionist that she wants a coronavirus test. Since she wasn't coughing, didn't have a fever, and neither did her son, and both of them appeared healthy, the receptionist declined her demands and told her that they can only test those who are very sick or are in high-risk groups, which they weren't. This apparently made her very angry and she began loudly yelling that she demanded that her and her son got tested. When her demand was again denied, she climbed on top of the receptionist's desk and started yelling again that she and her son needed to be tested. When the receptionist got her off the desk, she then started fake coughing right in her face and around the hall. Then she apparently threatened that if she and her son didn't get tested, she would go to the intensive care unit to cough on and infect the patients. Oh my god. Thankfully, at that point, security arrived and forced her out of the hospital. The police got called just in case she would return, which she thankfully didn't. Since she was a regular at that hospital, they could give the police her personal information just in case she would do the same at another hospital. See, this is the thing, right? I mean, I don't think this person is the same as the person in the first story, but they sound the same. There must be Karens going everywhere doing this sort of rubbish. Like, I don't really understand how we can even stop them. What can you actually do apart from saying, no, get out of my hospital? You can do nothing. I guess these people are just truly, truly horrible, and we need to just stay away from them if we know who they are. Then again, surely coughing on someone intentionally trying to start a panic counts as some form of assault, right? Surely. I think I actually saw something in the news about a week ago that people that go outside with the coronavirus, as in they've tested positive, could be liable for homicide. It's now getting that serious. Anyway, there is a lot of coronavirus stories going around. I mean, obviously everybody is talking about it. It's all over Twitter, all over the news. So I thought for the last two stories of this video, I'd give you something a little bit more normal, something you're more used to. Starting with this story. Can't you just hide being trans? Yep, that's something we're definitely more used to. Wow. Okay, so this happened a year ago now, but I'm only now addressing the fact that this behavior is messed up and that I shouldn't have to tolerate it. Basically, my cousin A has a son, O, and back then she'd regularly stop in at my mum's place after work for a coffee and a chat, after picking up her son from a childminder. Sometimes the childminder wouldn't be free, so instead of my cousin missing work, either my mum or me would look after her son, who was a bit of an idiot, but overall he's not the worst. Anyway, I've been out about being transgender for 3 years, so 2 at the point this happened, and I looked very outwardly transgender at this point. It's hard to hide being trans with shadowing on your face while wearing a blouse. My cousin brought her son over for me to watch one day and asked if we could talk for a moment in the kitchen. I said sure, because her son was watching cartoons by that point and I figured he'd be fine. So once we're in the kitchen, my cousin turns around and says to me, "Look, you know I love you, but can't you just hide being trans when my son is around? I don't know how to explain it to him and I don't want him getting weird ideas." By this point, her son had seen me in makeup, had seen me do my hair, had heard my real name and was even using it. Hence why he's a bit of an idiot for making a mess, but I still like him. Anyway, I said sure at the time, but looking back, this situation just seems extremely effed. Like, I'm sorry my being transgender is awkward for you, it's awkward for me too, believe it or not. So basically, she wants you to hide who you really are. Nah, screw that. Now for our final story. Now this one comes from my own subreddit r/RedditorYT with now over 16,000 members. As I always say when I read out a story from my subreddit, if you want to get involved, the link is in the description and for today in the pinned comments. Entitled neighbor breaks into the house, then threatens to sue when she is caught. So this isn't my story but my mum's. She works as a 911 dispatcher working night shifts. This story took place when my mum was only working there for about a month and a half. Now she was still fairly new and still getting used to the place. On to the story. My mum was having her usual night shift when she received a call from a man with a quite deep voice claiming someone is breaking into his house. The conversation goes as follows. 911, what's your emergency? Hello, I think someone is breaking into my house. My address is this. Don't worry sir, emergency vehicles are on their way. Where are you right now? Upstairs in my bedroom. Did you lock the door? Yes. Okay, good. Try to lower your voice so the burglar doesn't hear you. Okay. Do you have any pets? Anything my team should worry about? No. Okay, they're on their way, don't worry. I just heard broken glass. I think he's in. Can you identify where he is without getting out? I think I can hear footsteps downstairs and some chairs moving. I think he's looking for valuables. Okay, stay put and don't make noise. We're getting close. I used to train in the military. Should I engage? Sir, do not engage. Stay in your place. My team is almost there. As a dispatcher, it's policy to not let the victim engage no matter what. What is it? I think I just heard a gun being loaded. Okay, stay put. I'll inform my team that the suspect is armed. Shh, I can hear him going upstairs. That's it, I'm engaging. At this point, my mum is panicking. Sir, no, he is armed and dangerous. You could get yourself killed. Stay put. Don't worry, I have my trusty shotgun with me. Yes, he literally said trusty shotgun. Your what, sir? The dude puts the phone aside and starts walking towards the door. Sir, no, sir. Then my mum hears a noise in the background. The dude smashes the door open with his foot. Surprise, mother effer. He loads his gun. Then my mum hears the girliest, most terrified scream ever. ENR for entitled neighbor robber. Ah! Come back here, you little idiot. He shoots a few shots around. Keep in mind, this is all being heard on the phone, and my mum burst out laughing after the scream. Okay, there's no way this is real. Then the dude said, "Gotcha, female dog." It's just not a true story. The dude goes back to his phone. "I caught her and tied her up. When will your team be here?" My mum is dumbfounded. Yes, they're pulling up right now. While the cops were putting ENR in cuffs, she kept saying BS about him kidnapping her and assaulting her when she tried to escape. And when she knew she couldn't fool anybody, she tried to sue the dude for sexual harassment. He jumped on her to catch her. But it was all used against her. The dude pressed charges because of the broken windows, and it turns out he was trained in the military for 2 years, so he's pretty muscular and can take care of himself quite well. Later, we found out that ENR was his very jealous neighbor because he had a bigger house than her. We also found out that he had just moved into the neighborhood last week, and no one really anticipated how huge he is. It was winter, so he was wearing long sleeves and he hid the muscles. Okay. We still wonder why he called the cops, as he can clearly fight off robbers. I guess we'll never know. Wait, what? No, of course we know. You're obviously gonna call the police if you hear someone in your house. What? I have so many problems with this story. It's like almost 100% fake, but I still kind of love it for some reason. You know what, guys? Let me know in that poll. Do you reckon this story was real or fake? I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what it was, but I'll let you have your ideas as well. Nonetheless, I've got to say thank you to Titan Royale for this story. It doesn't matter if it was real or fake. It was still very enjoyable, and that's the main thing to take away, right? Guys, if you've got some real stories and you want me to read them out, then post them on my subreddit and I'll get to them very shortly. Anyway, that is going to do it for this episode on my channel. I really hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you're all keeping safe, keeping healthy, and staying away from the virus if at all possible. If you want another video right away to take your mind off current affairs, then click on that one on the screen right now. And if you want all my Entitled Parents videos, boom, they're right there. Go ahead, binge watch them all. With that being said, I'll leave you a little bit of time to click on a video. Go on. And if you don't, I will see you all tomorrow for a brand new upload.